I'm going to, with this presentation, I'm going to summarize the work done in Work Package 8. It's all about data management for cryoEM facilities. So basically, I have an introduction of the work package, and then I'll go through the deliverables. There were 4 deliverables, and all of them are on time. So basically, Work Package 8 is about increasing the quality and integrity of the structural data and metadata to share with the community. The key points in this context is we want to preserve for a long term all the scientific data produced at different Instruct facilities and help sharing this information. It's not only that, also that information needs to be understood by the user. So it needs to be accompanied with the metadata associated with that data. It's not just raw data. And the current situation is far from ideal. So currently, basically, results, so cryoEM maps are deposited in EMDB. And recently, now you can deposit raw data, but there's a huge gap between the raw data and the final result. Typically, this is described in a paper, the steps, but this is not enough to reproduce your results, for example, so, or get an idea of what has been done. The first deliverable is 8.1, and this was focused on how to establish a data transfer, or how it will behave. The reason is most Instruct centers, they have their own facility. They produce a large volume of data, and then this was this idea was how can this be stored, and basically the idea was to centralize the data in some kind of hub. So based on Diamond experience with this kind of large volume data and a big infrastructure, they did some test monitoring data transfer from different scenarios, like from a home broadband, for example, which was really poor, but also from our facility at CMB in Madrid. And during those tests, there was an upgrade of the hardware, and we optimized the transfer, and we could reach acceptable data transfer rates. But there were some conclusions that had to be addressed if we want the facilities to transfer the raw data to a centralized hub. Here it's proposed like a 2-stage storage, like Diamond is doing currently, a 40 days high performance access. So the data during the first 40 days are stored in a spinning disk, and we provide fast access to this data. And after that, that data will go into tapes. And then there will be like 4 different ways to access that data. Direct access or using Globus FTP will allow the user to access the 40 days data in the spinning disk. And then TopCat would be the other interface to access data that is stored in tapes. One consideration has to be taken, and is that Diamond uses what is called the military zone, and it requires a specific network configuration, not even only software, but also hardware. So there's work to be done, but it's possible to establish a central hub for data storage, and then all the facilities with some configuration effort send the data to that central storage. ICAT could be potentially used for or by Instruct-ERIC centers, and also large-scale facilities with the already experience they already have. They can act as hubs for these centers, maybe visualizing the data or the metadata that is transferred. As I mentioned, it's important to configure or adapt the network topology to reach this high speed or the required speed needed for this to work. And adopting this the military zone design pattern will work best for Instruct-ERIC facilities. The second deliverable is a plan for archiving raw and metadata archiving. The goal is to design a system to keep the metadata that is happening at the facilities and being able to share this with the community. Obviously, this with having in mind the FAIR principles of being findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, and knowing that the facilities are already busy and probably facilitating or making their life easy to accomplish this task. So Diamond already is using ISPYB. So what was done in this work package was to evolve ISPYB to what they call MySPYB. And they simplified installation using virtual machines. So it's now much easier to install this MySPYB instance. And this other thing that ISPYB lack or interface with some other in-house systems like proposals, and it's not expected everyone to use the same system. So they implemented a basic proposal management system interface, and also for processing pipelines, it was tested with a Scipion, and this was mainly covering the three aspects that a facility could need in terms of sharing the raw data and metadata. So later on the right, you see this schema. And so the idea is for every facility to have MySPYB. That could be one solution. And then share the information using already existing protocols like OIA, and maybe centralizing this in a hub like is the Instruct-ERIC box over there. And then make everything findable and accessible for every user. There is additional work to be done in ISPYB to obviously this is not 100% ready, but it was a nice prototype to come up with a feasible solution. Then 8.3 is about develop and enhance the position of a structural data to database. Currently, you can deposit, as I said before, you can deposit to EMDB, and now you can, well, for several years, I'm not sure for how long, but it came later. You can use Empire to archive raw data, but the thing is, from the raw data to the final map, currently there is a black box. The user typically doesn't know what's happening from that raw data to the final map. You need to go to the paper, and then you need to read the paper, and not even that, because the paper cannot describe everything in detail. You can get an idea, but it's a very rough idea of the processing. So what we have done here is Scipion is already a software that we develop in Madrid and other locations. And Scipion knows all these details, all the workflow and all the parameters, all the programs used to do the processing. Everything is stored in the Scipion. So we work on exporting this data into a JSON that now it's even been extended to have more data. And we work also in having a HTML JavaScript viewer for this JSON file. So this JSON file could be visualized in websites like Empire, for example. We established a very nice collaboration with Empire team. They are very open to suggestions. They react very quickly, and they are actually currently for several months already. They accept this kind of JSON generated by Scipion to fully describe the pipeline. There are few depositions, not much, to be honest, but there are several depositions with this JSON file that open that black box and at least describes very detailed what has been done with that data. They also adapted or made the embargo period longer so this is still in conversations, but obviously we require a longer embargo period than a typical Empire submission that happens at the end. And they agree on this to accommodate facilities submissions. Also, they added this JSON viewer in their site. We also had to develop a plugin for Scipion to make this Empire deposition that is also currently evolving to get an enriched JSON file with images supporting or like reporting better the results. And our facility is ready to do this. Recently, there hasn't been much activity. We bought a new microscope, and sadly, we didn't receive many requests from Instruct, but the facility is ready and agreed to start sending this data to Empire automatically. This is an example of what could happen. So on the left, you see a Scipion with a complex workflow, and every box has all the details of parameters and programs used, and that could go into Empire. This is an example of that. Recently, we deposit, and we benefit from the work done in this work package 8 that has already the JSON, the workflow here, Scipion workflow. And when you click in this, you can see the complexity of the workflow that cannot be reported in a paper. And finally, delivery 8.4 was about the starting projects using ISPYB and Scipion connectivity. So ISPYB had to be extended to electron microscopy before they had they cover X-ray data processing, but it has to be extended to cryo-electron microscopy. So this was done in this period, and the 4 image processing done in a cryoEM pipeline. It's been accommodated and sent to ISPYB so users can visualize cryoEM data in ISPYB. We have for that to adapt the Scipion to work on Zocalo infrastructure, that is what runs at DLS, and also develop a plugin to do this connectivity and send data to ISPYB. And yeah, that's all.